The president of South Africa finds himself in a really interesting controversy. So, his home, his private residence, was broken into and a large amount of cash was taken. Now, the stories range from anywhere from several $100,000 to potentially several $1 million. And his response was this was from the sale of livestock, while obviously others are insinuating corruption. Now, the consequences are that his plans to reinvigorate the South African economy are in danger, as well as his reelection chances. And ultimately, what it means is that all of his plans, his strategies are in jeopardy. Stories can be very compelling. Now, ultimately, I have no opinion and I'm not interested in getting involved in the controversy. But I also recognize many people have formed their opinions, they've come to their conclusions. And why is this important for you and I? We need to recognize in the age of deception, so many stories in social media can be so compelling. But we also recognize that God's people increasingly will come under scrutiny, that our lives will be examined. And the enemy would love nothing more than to find us, to cause us to be discredited, especially those who aspire to be used by God, those who are growing in leadership will find themselves under the microscope. So how do we respond? Peter said that he would desire that we would strive to be found blameless. Hold on to that word blameless. See, Paul talking to Timothy and Titus both said the same thing, that a qualification for leadership, a criteria would be that we would be found blameless. Now that seems like an unattainable benchmark. That how could we ever achieve that? Because we equate blameless with perfection. The only one that ever has or will attain that is Jesus. But we need to understand what that word blameless means. It actually means not apprehended, or in other words, not taken a hold of. In other words, there may be a story and it may sound compelling, but there's nothing for it to take hold of. Or as my friend Dan Gordon used to say, there's nothing for it to stick to. So we should live lives that stories will happen, but ultimately there should be nothing in our life for them to stick to. Now, that doesn't mean that we will not be unjustly judged, that the stories won't come against us. Look at Joseph, look at Daniel. But because of their lives, those stories were in time proven hollow and God vindicated them. We need to live in a way that God can promote and the enemy can't discredit. But there's something else, and that is recognizing the enemy would also love nothing more than to drive a wedge between God's people, to create disunion, to separate us out. And we have to recognize that stories will be compelling, and there is a tendency, a sense of jumping to conclusion, to assuming what it means. But we need to take the time, have the maturity to take the time to take that story in the light of what we know of those people, their character. Does it seem like there is anything in their lives for this to take hold of? Is there anything in their life for this to stick to? Or, as Proverbs tells us, a story seems right until the other side is told.